Hi everyone, Mira Gold here, and I thought that I'd just jump on for a little bit just to give y'all an update on what I've been doing for the last, say, 5, 6 months since around the March 29th, 30th. I actually participated in a hackathon through Lovable, which is a no-code software platform. They call it vibe coding, which, yeah, okay, it's no code anyway. Since I am not a programmer or a developer, I'm not techie in that field. I am an author and technical writer. I used Lovable to kind of launch some of the early beginnings of my UI. And the reason why I'm jumping on is because if you have an idea for something and you're not sure how to build it and you don't know how to code, definitely try out Lovable because there you can just type in what your idea is. I actually had an 80-page document for some of my UI design that had some crude drawings and stuff, and I uploaded that. Had a conversation with the chat agent and was able to start building my platform. After about a day and a half in Lovable, and when I say a day and a half, I mean that I worked like 36 hours straight in Lovable, no sleep, because, well, that's how I am when I get totally involved in something. I went to Cursor after that at the advice of a developer who is a user in Lovable, only because of some of the things that I was trying to do. And I actually really liked Cursor, found some videos on YouTube and loaded that to my system and have been using it ever since. Now, will I not use Lovable anymore? No, that's not the case here. I do have other ideas that I want to create, some other apps, but when I'm ready, I know that Lovable will be there for me to be able to create something there. But yeah, if you are not a coder and you have an idea, play around with these two platforms. Let me know how it goes for you. So let me get back to Mira Gold's Writing Forge. So in my Writing Forge, underneath my select project type, under fiction, I can go into novels, novellas, short stories, or the novel architect. Under novel generator, I can actually type in things manually, paste in my concept details, my world building details. If I have a premise, I can put one in there. If I want to use a prompt that is either a Mira Gold prompt or a different prompt that I've pulled in, then I can definitely do that too. And there is a section under here under creative works where you can use where you can see Mira Gold prompts and then you can see prompt manager. Those are some of the prompts that a user can put in there and then be able to pull in here under like the novel generator. But for what I'm filming today, I wanted to show you the novel architect. I've been having a lot of fun with this. So the most that I've generated has been 50 chapters. I don't know if I'm going to push the limit by doing 60, but I thought that I'd take you guys along for the ride. So I'm going to scroll down here and let me pull up my framework. So I have a prose framework for the body of work that I want to work on. It's a vampire, gothic, urban fantasy, dark romance. And I, just as a placeholder, called it Echoes of Blood. And then you can also see that I have the same thing here underneath my library for structured framework, and I loaded them here. Now, just to give you a sense of an idea of what that looks like, I have a 43-page document where I keep all of my content. I have my original premise, my synopsis. This is a project that I had from like years ago. When I say years ago, like before I even knew AI existed. And I took some of the content that was already in here and all my characters, I took some of the information and took it to Chat GPT and had it flesh out things even further. You know that I like to use JSON, so definitely have that for my characters here. I have my world building information and I have specifics about different books and overviews. And here under my acts, I have my chapters broke up into acts. So I have Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, and it goes all the way to chapter 60. So you can see that in my chapters, I am very brief, and I just give a summary of what the important parts are on all of my chapters. And I do that as a brief overview. It's something that I've always done from day one of my writing. So I then took this information and then I went ahead and went into ChatGPT, loaded my Word document in there and said, hey, I need a clean plug and play JSON that I can drop into my writing forge. I wanted to keep the original content and reuse it. So it went ahead and went in and restructured things for me so that I could grab my frameworks and then upload them into my writing program. But again, if I didn't know how to do that, then I could go into the converter and have the converter split that information up for me. So here I do have my Echoes of Blood. I have my structured framework, and I have my voice and style selected. So I'm going to go to my outline, and I am going to put a little premise in there. I have one that I worked up specifically for the platform. So I'm going to grab this paragraph here. Now, you can do as little as 1 to 2 sentences for your premise, or you can put in something longer. You can use bullet points, you can use JSON. Put the information that you feel comfortable with, and if you ever go in here and play with this. I also go ahead and scroll down, and I'm going to look at the AI settings. Here, I'm going to toggle off the free. I'm going to use my keys. So it has a bring your own keys option. So I'm going to do that. I have quite a few items that I've already loaded. I really wish I could do Grok, but because it's like 2 million whenever you get down to like Grok 4, 2 million token size. The most that I've been able to work with so far has been with Google, has been like 1 million. Keep in mind that Gemini 1.5 Flash is actually free right now. So that is definitely something to keep in mind as well. I have tried to do the XAI, which is Grok, but I've been unable to get that to go through in my system. It just keep getting a 500 error. And I understand from my reading that that's on XAI's side instead of mine. But if that's incorrect, please let me know or point me in a direction to be able to read more about that, because I would really, really love to be able to run some of these alpha tests on Grok to see what kind of prose Grok will generate, because I do like the way that Grok's prose sounds. So for this, I am going to go ahead and do a paid one. I've been having issues with the 2.5 Pro hitting, I guess, heavy traffic, and so sometimes it'll time out. At least it has today. Prior today, I'm going to say the last 72 hours, it's been working pretty good, except for just here recently. Prior to that, I did hit 500 errors on this, but then they made some changes and then things were able to go through again. But just in the interest of hoping that we don't hit a 500 error, I'm going to go ahead and do the flash. If we run into a brick wall, then I'll do the 1.5 and see if maybe there's less traffic on that. I'm going to change my top P. I'm not going to adjust my max output because I do have something input in that is going to automatically adjust based on the prompt length. So depending on how long the prompt is, it should self-adjust in the back end. So let's see how that is going. And I apologize if I cough or clear my throat. My family is just getting over, I don't know if it was an RSV, just a cold or flu or COVID, whatever it was, man, it was nasty. I finally have a voice now, but we're all still coughing here and there. So while this is generating, I can tell you a little bit about the program. There's a chat with Buddy, which people said to make that chat with Mira, and that, I don't know, that's kind of weird. So you can definitely save them. You can delete your chats. Under story creation, you have a document manager where you can look at all the documents that you've uploaded. I have a section for my projects. And the chapter generator here, that's pretty cool. The chapter generator allows you to generate one chapter at a time. Just keep in mind that it's siloed because it's not going to generate based on the other chapters that came before it, because there's no continuity with that one. Under the revision generator, you would either pull in your project or you would upload a document and then go through it chapter by chapter and be able to click on some of the things that you want to have done. There's a little sidebar section that you can click on, things like maybe kill the filter words or filler words, look for passive voice, look for dangling modifiers, whatever the case may be. You can check those off and have the AI go through and look for those. You can also type in information that you're looking for the AI to take care of. We've been testing that out and playing around with it. You can definitely share your stories. Earlier, when I was showing you under the novel generator that you could pull in prompts under the other generation section, the prompts would come here from Mira Gold's prompts. And then prompt manager is where a user can pull in their own prompts or build their prompts that they can use either privately or they can share with other users. And under the global AI controls, I don't know if I'm going to leave that there or not. There may not be a need for that once we move to production. And under the submit a fine tune, that one's kind of cool. So say you have book one and you want help with generating book two, you would upload your manuscript from book one, and then a fine tune could be generated for you to be able to use for your generation. So I think that's cool. But we're also looking at opening that up. Like, I'd like to be able to share some of my fine tunes with people who were interested in using them. And if other people have fine tunes created and want to share those, we're looking at having that open to a royalty share so that if somebody's fine tune is being used by the other users because they've made it open and available, that they can get a royalty share off of the amount of tokens or words that are being generated. Okay, so let's take a look. It generated, but let's make sure it generated all 60. So this is chapter 1 of the outline. Let's make sure it did all of them. Oh, looky there, 60. Okay, so, and it's 108,000 characters. Wow, let's see how many words that is. Okay, that's quite a few. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go here and look at the word count. Oh, almost 17,000 words for the outline. Interesting. That's like 10,000 more than what I had in my whole outline that, I was using to flesh things out. So that's kind of interesting. It added 10,000 more words. And this is just the outline. So I guess I'd have to highlight the outline that I had before that had some vague stuff. So let's see, it has the POV, it has a setting, the plot events, it has information about Quicksilver, and it has the plot events here. We have key dialogue, we have an emotional beat, purpose, cliffhanger, and then chapter 2 is his, and same thing. So it's a lot of the same information, like the POV, the plot points, and I do have some coding in the back end that tells the LLM what each one of these means and what information to gather and format. So that's pretty cool that it ended up being almost 17,000 words for that. Let's go back and take a look at this information. Now, I do want to take a look and see what this is going to generate. Like I said before, I was having problems with 2.5 Pro. And I really haven't played much with Flash. I know on the 50 chapter book that I generated yesterday or day before, I know that that one ended up being a little over 100,000 words for the manuscript, the prose for those chapters. So I'm curious to see if I use Flash, how much of a difference the word count might be. So let's play around with that. Now, in a best case scenario, I would read through every single one of these chapters just to make sure that it was where I wanted it to be. And I do highly advise you to read through content to make sure it's where you want it. Now, say you didn't want to use or generate one of these and you wanted to put your own in here, you could do that. You could bypass generating something altogether, put your own content here, and then you could make sure that it's in a valid format. If not, then it will repair it. And then you could go over to the generation setup, and then it would pull it in for you to be able to start doing the generation of the chapters. As this states here, you cannot make any editing changes on the generation setup. You'd have to go back to the outline to make changes to the outline direct. Now on this page, if I wanted to, I could change my LLM model. Now, I'm not going to change that from chapter to chapter. I am going to, whatever I pick for chapter 1, it will be from chapter 1 all the way through chapter 60, because I'm going to want to keep continuity. So let me go back in because I have some notes. It's optional, but I've been playing around with putting notes in there. So I definitely want to go back and get my notes. So let me go ahead and grab my notes and see how long that is. There it is. So let me grab those and we will put those notes right here. And again, you can, if you don't want to use JSON, you don't have to. You can just put in straight type. You can type something in on the fly. You can use bullet points, however you want to put your information in there. So I'm not going to change my top P. I like my temp at the 0.7, and it automatically read the frameworks that I had loaded. So it already knew that I wanted to first person. It knew that I wanted past tense, and it knew that I wanted the alternating male female POVs. And it is even letting me know which ones get what. So the odd chapter should be the female, the even chapter should be the male. Now, one thing that I do have built in is, and I know that Cece and I go back and forth because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not alternating, not all of the evens are the guys, but I have to stop and think sometimes. I let OCD get in the way and with that pattern, back and forth. But, in reality, you want the chapter that's generated or written by being generated with the AI and the prompting, you want that to be from the POV of the character who has the most at stake. And if you happen to have maybe a couple of chapters from the female's POV back to back, don't stress. Just read through it and make sure that it's following the outline the way that you want. Now, I did run into that with one of my other books, and I did actually agree with the AI that it was a better flow to have more chapters of the female than the male because she had more, emotionally at stake. But if you're hardcore that it must be all of the chapters for the female must be odd and all of the chapters for the male must be even, then I would put that in the book style notes under that option section, and I would make notation that it must be followed. Here you have the persistent conversation thread. I would leave that checked. If you uncheck that, it's going to generate siloed chapters. That means that it will look at your outline and it will generate based on your outline, but it's not going to know what came before. So you want to keep that persistent conversation thread so it stays all in one thread rather than generating siloed. And here we do see the pattern. Now, one of the things that I found cool here, say I wanted to make a change, I could do a single character alternating. I could even do a custom pattern here for my POV. I still have the option to make changes here. I can make changes here as well. If I want my POV to change, I can do it from it's currently at first person. I could have it go and select third person limited or third person all knowing. I could do the same thing with the narrative tense. Right now it's set to past tense. I can toggle it over and click to have it become present tense. So keep that in mind. And I did play with this, and it was actually interesting to see how it actually adhered. So I was actually pretty excited about that when I tested that, at least the change flipping from here. And now we are ready. Now this bottom section here is more of the structure that's being sent to the LLM on the back end. So here I'm going to, once everything is the way I want it, I'm just going to hit start and we are going to keep going. Keep in mind, I went ahead and left it at the flash. So let's see what the flash does on the chapters. I'm curious now. Now this is going to take a while because it is 60 chapters. I do like the progress bar. As you can see here, when I first originally created this and was working with the LLM and with the agent on Cursor, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know if it was processing, if it was doing anything at all. So it put this little spinning icon here and it gave me a progress bar and it gives you the word count. So that was 2,400 words for chapter 1. That's not bad. I didn't realize Flash would actually give you word count in that area. Now, if I was using 1.5 Flash, then it might be half of that word count, and that the 1.5 is a free model. So 2 chapters, 5,300 words. Now, once all chapters are generated, it will take us over to the output, and we'll be able to see all of the generated chapters. So that part's pretty cool. 7,000 words. I'm telling you, I was totally blown away by the idea that I was able to actually build this. And I did that with the help of Lovable and Cursor. 9,600. Wow. I still have a few areas that I need to turn back on. I was making some changes, so I need to turn this part back on and update some information over here under the planned credits. So 4 chapters in and 9,600 words. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Hopefully that makes it easier to see. So we're at 8% at 11,000 words, almost 12. And it took a while. It took a while for me to go back and forth with the API generating stuff and checking on the backend content that I had created and built into the backend just to make sure that it was sending content out and then receiving it and then reformatting it. You don't know what you don't know until you run into it. 7 chapters, and we're at 16,000. I want to say that Flash might run a little bit less in word count than Pro, but I don't think it's that bad. I think it runs pretty good. I like how it shows that it's generating and it gives each one of the chapters, it gives it a title. So that's kind of cool. So we are at, if you hear noise in the background, that's my husband shooing the cat away. And he's still shooing the cat away. So that is 20,000 words. Pretty cool for 9 chapters. 20,000. We are 15% of the way. I want to do a little bit more digging to find out more about how to use a program or code called Roma. My son told me about it, and I know that I've looked at RAG and stuff for adding additional information and being able to have the LLM go in and look at specific information. So I'm hoping that I can get Roma up and working, because I'm thinking that if I have, say, 100,000 words, if I can get 100,000 words today without using Roma, I can just imagine what that can do using Roma, and maybe be able to load additional content in there and being able to write like a serialized body of work that might span, 100,000, 120, maybe even 200,000 words. That would be awesome. And I know that you can push the limits with some of these larger LLMs that have a 1 million token content window or a 2 million one, which XAI has. So I'm really hoping that I can get in there to test that one at some point. So we are at 28,000 words with 13 chapters. So that's pretty cool. The bitter taste of truth. Okay. Now we are at 30,000. We are about a fourth of the way through. Well, if it stays at that, it should hit what, 110 to 120,000. Let's see if it keeps up at that pace. 32,000 words. 34. We are 27% in to the generation. 35%. So as you can see, it takes a little while for the calls to be done back to back. But the results have been really encouraging. I've actually taken some, I just recently started doing these longer bodies. I was kind of graduating first. I started out with like 7 chapters, and then 10, then 11, then went to like 13, then 15, then 20. So here lately, I kind of took a big jump from like 30, 35 chapters to 50. And then I just took another jump from 50 to 60. So I'm curious to see how well it can hold up on with the story. Now I am doing alternating POVs because I feel that that's kind of where the AI tends to kind of fall apart with bodies of work. It tends to do better with a single POV and holding the framework together and the threads. So I'm curious to see what it will do with a dual POV. We're at 43,000 words. We are at 21 chapters out of 60, so a little over a third of the way there. And if we continue at the pace that we're going, then yeah, it should be around 120. I'd say 110 to 120 maybe, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Now, is this publish ready when it is done generating? No, you still need to go in. You still need to go in and check for consistency. You need to make sure that if your character is wearing a blue shirt at the beginning of the chapter, that it's still a blue shirt at the end of the chapter. I don't know about y'all, but even before AI and writing a book, I can write pretty fast without AI. There were times where they might be in a car and then all of a sudden it's a truck, or they're in the living room, but then all of a sudden they're talking in the kitchen and you don't know how they got there. Same thing with AI. If you do not pay attention to where they're moving your characters, then, you could end up with some of those issues. We're at 51,000 words. We are 25 of 60 chapters, so that's pretty cool. 52,000, getting closer to that halfway mark. Sorry, I don't have anything really cool to show you while it is generating other than just the bar. Oh, I'm doing Guardians of the City. %, or 54,000 words, sorry, 45%. And I do record some of these just for the sake of some of the testing that I'm doing. The Weight of Prophecy. 28 out of 60 chapters. We're at 56,000. So I'm thinking that we should be hitting about 60,000 words when we hit chapter 30, or pretty close, if not. And if y'all have watched any of my other videos, y'all know that I am definitely a firm believer in Save the Cat. I like to use the Snyder beat sheets for my plotting and planning. And I did that even prior to AI, and I still do that today. It's the way I can break down a body of work quickly. So 30 out of 60 chapters, we are at 60,000. Now we're 31 chapters in at 62,000 words. So yeah, if it keeps up at this rate or word count, we should be hitting, 120,000 words. Wow. Now, when I generated the 100,000, it was a little over 100,000, and then about 13 to 14,000 words for the outline. So all in all, I'd say about 115,000 words was generated in the other project, and it didn't even cost, I don't know, 350 or something. I've been editing that one, and it's actually pretty good. It's pretty clean. There are things that I'm going in there and changing, or if I see that there's a lot of use of maybe a pronoun or starting paragraphs, with the a whole lot, I'll go in and change that. One of the things that I found that I'm having to do with some of these is actually go in and break up some of the paragraphs so that I have more white space rather than a block of text. And when I say block, I don't mean like, oh no, it's like the whole chapter's a block. It's not that. It's just that the paragraphs might be a little long sometimes. And then I just have to go in and break them up. Depending on the genre, I like shorter paragraphs for some genres. Others, I don't mind if it's a historical. I don't mind if it has really long paragraphs. But for some of my urban fantasy or mafia, especially if it's a scene that moves really fast, I prefer to have shorter paragraphs. So we're at 36 chapters out of 60, and we're at 70,000 words, or 37 chapters at 72,000 words. We're 62% of the way there. As I said, it just takes a little while. So you do have to wait and let it finish processing. And again, I think some of that is that I have things running in the background on my system, and I'm doing this on my local server, so on my local host. I've been reading a lot on how to deploy the site, make it live. Haven't quite gotten all the pieces together yet, but I definitely have the back end up and the secrets and stuff in my vault on Azure, and have other things set up for that. From what I'm understanding, it should take me, well, the AI said it should take me like 10 minutes to get the production side up and running, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I think it's going to take me a little longer than that because I have a lot of reading to do on that. So I'm 41 out of 60 chapters, and I am at 79,000 words, almost 80. Wow. 81,000 at 42 chapters. So we are 70% of the way in. Pretty cool. Little over 2/3 of the way. Forty-four chapters, 84,000 words. I do like the continuity. One of the things that I found when I left it unchecked is that it actually introduced all these crazy characters that weren't even part of my story. And I'm like, where did these characters come from? They weren't in my outline. So that was real frustrating. But as long as I leave it checkmarked to use the persistent conversation thread, I have not had that issue. Knock on wood, but I've not had that issue as long as I have the conversation thread area checked. So 46 out of 60 chapters. I'm at 78%. I am 88,000 words. Almost 89. 90,000 words. This is so crazy. It just blows my mind that somebody who does not code can talk to an AI, and what I can see in my head for a vision for the Writing Forge platform, just talking to the AI, I was able to build it with the help of AI. That is so crazy to me. Does that mean that I don't need developers or other people for running this? No, I might have been able to come up with the UI, and I might have been able to build stuff for the back end, and I might have it working right now, but there's definitely a need for developers whenever I get to that stage. I was talking to my son who does coding, but he's involved in like 2 other startups, so he hasn't had a whole lot of time to help me, but he has given me feedback whenever it comes to, hey, check out this. That's how I found out about Lovable. But he's been telling me that, take it one step at a time, you got to take it one bite at a time and work through it. And he was telling me that even with his background in coding and his friends, that with AI, it's such a wild west that even they have to do a lot of reading and research to figure out how best to use some of the different models in some of the platforms that they work on. So 54 out of 60 chapters, we're at 100,000 words right now. Pretty cool. 102, 102,000. We're at 55 chapters. We might not hit the 120, but I'm pretty sure we should be hitting the 110, which was a projection that I had earlier. 105. But I do wonder if it would have generated more words if I had used the 2.5 Pro. But since I'd had problems with that earlier, I didn't want to risk that. So we're at 106. It looks like maybe the 2.5 Flash might do anywhere from, say, 1,500 words to, what was it, 2,400 words? Whereas on average, the 2.5 Pro generally does more. The average for the 2.5 Pro is usually 2,000 to 2,200 words per chapter. Here it was 1821. So almost 110. We're at 109,255 words total, which, I mean, even that's crazy. So let's see, we had 2,400 words here. Let's see. Oh, look, and I lived in San Antonio, and there is a King Williams district. That's pretty cool. And that is so true. Talking about the scent and the smell of the night blooming jasmine and other things on the river walk. Now, do you see what I mean about the long paragraphs? I might go in and break some of these up to be shorter paragraphs. So, one of the things that I noticed with this early on before I did more of the coding in the back end, there was so much repetition on the paragraphs, starting with the same like pronoun, especially if it was first person. So after a lot of tweaking, we were able to get it to where it was starting with other variations. Oh, look, her breath hitched. Can't get away from all those AI-isms. A lot of them we have been able to cut out. Okay, so a hunt had begun, and it would lead me to the very heart of the darkness I had spent centuries trying to escape. Okay, so is it a true knockdown, drag out cliffhanger like you see in television series whenever they break for a commercial? No, but I can live with that. I might go up a little bit further and see what kind of ending it is a little bit further up. So let's see, this is, oh, 2,800 words. Interesting. Yep. Oh, gargoyle. So let's scroll and see. It looks like chapter 2 is actually from her POV rather than his. So the AI took some liberty there because she's watching Clive. Yep. So not bad. This is 2,200 words, but let's go down to the bottom and see what it did down here. So only 1,000 words here for the end. So I wonder if the context window is better used in the Pro than in the Flash. It'd be interesting to regenerate this on Pro when Pro is working and not hitting those 500 errors. It'll be interesting to regenerate it to see what the difference is with the prose and with the length of prose generated. But I still want to do, would still love to generate with Grok. So not bad. And it has a little feel good ending here. And I, Quicksilver, the guardian with Clive, my human love by my side, was ready to embrace every moment of it. Okay. There we go. The story I knew had just truly begun. So you definitely still have to kill some of those AI-isms, but for the most part, I think that the prose is a lot cleaner, and I do like that it has consistency. It just doesn't go off the rails and introduce, different characters. So I just wanted to give y'all a little sneak peek to let you see what I've been working on and what I'm so excited about. And as soon as I figure out how to move it into production, I'll let people know. If you are interested in signing up for beta testing for the Mira Gold Writing Forge. I will leave a link, and we do have calling all writers. You can sign up for the alpha version as well as the beta version. One sign up will do both for you, and it just requires your email. And then once we're ready, we can get you set up and invite you to either the alpha or the beta version. If y'all have any questions, comments, concerns, or have more information about those 500 codes, or information, if you're from, say, XAI and want to help me out and help me figure out why, those 500 errors keep creeping up, I'd be really happy to talk to you. But again, if you have questions, comments, feedback on what you saw today, please be sure to leave comments. And thanks for going on this journey with me, and happy writing.